This is Julie Pearson, Little Thunder, with the Oklahoma Oral History Research Program at Oklahoma State University. Today is Saturday, April 10th, 2021, and this is a remote interview with Cristiana Prado for the Library of Congress Occupational Folklife Project funded by the Archie Green Fellowship. I'm in Tulsa, as you are, Cristiana, where you're currently teaching and doing your art. I'm looking forward to learning more about you and your work. Where were you born and where did you spend your growing up years?
I was born in Salvador, in the state of Bahia, in Brazil.
And growing up years as well?
Growing up there, yes, and I moved to Tulsa 22 years ago.
What was it like in your home city? What was the environment like?
Okay, it's a coastal city, so being at the close to the beach was, on a daily basis pretty much, and a very tropical weather too. We just had two seasons, summer and rain. That's all. Very mild temperatures, very breezy, very happy, a very happy city full of parties, a lot of celebrations, a lot of holidays. So it was, and then also we used to spend 3 months every year at our beach house. It was like maybe 40 minutes from Salvador. And whenever the weather was good throughout the year, we used to go there too.
Cool. So, what was your first exposure to art, however you might define it?
Okay, my first exposure to art was through my mom. My mom is an artist, and she was my drawing teacher in middle school. So, besides that, she was always painting, she was always creating, especially when we were at the beach house. She was always setting up her easel and painting from the porch because she could see the ocean right in front of her. So I was raised in that kind of artistic environment. My dad is an architect, so somehow art was always around us. But I would say mostly from my mom.
Mm-hmm. You did get a degree in architecture from the University Federal in Rio de Janeiro. What drew you to study architecture?
I think I was trying to follow my dad's path because my dad is an architect, and also I was, raised around him, drawing and planning, and talking about how to, create that kind of house, that kind of landscape, and all that. So I felt like, compelled, and I felt like, no, I want to learn a little bit about it. So I entered the University of Tulsa. Oh, I'm sorry, the University of Bahia. I'm sorry, University of Bahia to start architecture. But then when I got married, I had to move. I had to move to different places because of my ex-husband's job. So then I moved to São Paulo, and I transferred the university to São Paulo. And then I lived there for just 2 years, and those 2 years were not enough for me to finish the degree. So then I moved to Rio. That's where I finished. So pretty much I did three different universities in order to finish the degree. So
Wow.
I ended up getting my degree from the University of Federal University of Rio de Janeiro.
Mm-hmm. And you came to the United States one time before you came to stay here permanently. What was that like?
Yeah, my ex-husband came to have his PhD here at the University of Tulsa. In fact, we started living in Texas, in College Station. He was supposed to have his PhD at Texas A&M University, but something happened there with his advisor. He retired, and the university had no interest in hiring somebody new to advise him on something very specific that he really needed. So
Mm-hmm.
then there's like quite a few other people from Petrobras here in Tulsa, and then he decided to transfer to Tulsa. So that's how we ended up living here the first time.
So,
And yeah.
so Petrobras was the name of the company, the oil company that he worked for. And after your first stint here, when you were still, I'm sure not quite as fluent as you are, you went ahead and earned a teaching certification in English.
Yeah, when I moved to Tulsa the first time, I felt like, oh, this is a very good opportunity for me to learn the language. And I was recently graduated. I had recently graduated in architecture. I said, no, I'm going to give it a break a little bit. And then I'm going to learn the language, English, because I'm here. There was a lot of exposure. And I felt like that's the best opportunity in my life ever. I don't know if I will be back here one day again.
Mm-hmm.
So I did everything I could to learn English here. And then when I went back to Brazil, I felt like I don't want to lose it. So then I was like more inclined to teaching instead of just like, looking for something with the architecture. And so I entered this institute that it's called Institute Brazil in the United States. And then there they offer a program to prepare students to teach English. So I was certified, from this institute. So then I started like teaching English in Brazil.
So you kind of got the teaching bug.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
So this second time, you've already had some exposure to Tulsa. What are your thoughts when you come back the second time?
When I left Tulsa the first time, I thought that I would never be back here, except for visiting friends. I made very good friends here, and then they were still here. And I felt like, okay, one day I'll go back to Tulsa to visit my friends. But then, this opportunity came to my ex-husband, and there we are, there I am. And so here I am, in fact. So I felt like, it was good in a way because I already knew the city, although it has changed so much. And but it was good to be back here. And then again, I had my friends. And anyway,
and you decided
that's
to study art.
my city now. Huh?
And you decided to start studying art.
Yes, because then I came in here and I felt like, I could have some benefits from the University of Tulsa by my ex-husband's job because he was a teacher there, a professor there. And then I felt like I looked for something in architecture, but I couldn't find anything that really interested me. And then when I saw that there was an art program at TU, I said, no, I'm gonna, go ahead and start something. And I always liked the artistic side of architecture. And I entered the university just as a non-seeking degree student. And the director at that time told me, go ahead and, try a few studio classes and see what you're gonna do. And that's what happened.
So I understand you started out kind of in painting or printmaking and
Printmaking, yes.
fell in love with ceramics.
Yeah, in fact, what happened is that one of my studio classes, the first studio classes that I took at TU was printmaking. And from that on, I felt like, no, I like it. I'm going to go ahead and continue with that, And so I transferred some of the credits that I had from architecture to the University of Tulsa. And Teresa was a director at that time. And she told me, why don't you, just take a few more classes and get your BFA? I said, okay, that's a good idea. And that's what I did. But then after that, I was more interested in, getting more the study of printmaking in details. I want to just, go ahead and continue a little bit with that. So I entered the graduate program and I got my degree in my MA in printmaking. But when I was about to finish my MA, I think it was the last semester, I took ceramics class, and I fell in love with it. And then I remember talking to Teresa. I said, Teresa, I probably want to switch to ceramics. She said, Cristiana, you're more than halfway with your MA in printmaking. Go ahead and finish it and come back, for an MFA in ceramics. And I thought, what a good idea. And that's pretty much what happened.
And Teresa herself is an immigrant woman artist. She's part of this collection. What did her mentorship mean to you?
Okay, Teresa was, first of all, it was something very interesting because we were pretty much the only, I would say international, but immigrant, people at the department during that time. And so I felt a lot of support and I felt like, oh, someone that will understand, a lot of things that we pass through. And she was from South America too, Venezuela, which is a country that is very close to Brazil. And so I had her as someone that was really guiding me professionally. And then we became friends. She was very supportive. She gave me a lot of support when I was divorcing. emotional support, and she was a dear friend. She's still. And but professionally speaking, also she gave me very good advice. We talked a lot about what to do next, and she always believed in my work, in myself, and she always pushed me to do a lot of things. So I really appreciate her help.
Right, right. Um, so, yes, I mean, you haven't made it all the way through schooling, I understand, when you get your divorce. How did you handle that, and how did the art help you?
Okay, it was a very hard moment in my life because when I came to this place, it was an option, it was nothing like, hey, my ex-husband's job made him transfer or something. It was an option. He left Petrobras and decided to come here. And we together were like thinking, this is gonna be our life, and then we're gonna have a kid and all these things that I waited a long time. And then I felt like now we're gonna go to the country where we're gonna have much better quality of life and all that. So then I came and I had my son 2 years after I came, here for the second time. But after a few years, things were not doing well, and we were, not happy at all. But then the divorce was nothing that I expected to be like so soon. I thought that we could work things out, but he decided to do it, and it was very shocking by the way everything was. And I felt like, what am I gonna do now without my family, and with all these dreams that I had in mind? And I didn't expect to move to this country and leaving everything behind. I had a job in Brazil, to be here and to be by myself, to be a single mother here. So I had the benefits from his job, and I was able to do everything I did at TU pretty much for free. But when I finished my MA, I told him, let's wait a little bit, at least to sign the divorce, because I still have the benefits to pursue my MFA. He said, what's for? What do you need an MFA? I said, hey, did I ask you when you came to the United States for your PhD, did I ask you why? I just came with you. So, but anyway, there was nothing that, made him wait a little bit. Other things came up, and anyway, ugly things. But so what I did is that I had to get a position as a TA in order to have my tuition waived. And so that's what I did. But at the time that I wanted to, start the MFA, there was no position for me. So I talked to my advisor, my future advisor, and she said, okay, we're going to wait. As soon as there is a position, we're going to have yours, the first on the list. And so that's what I did. I waited 2 years. And in the meantime, I never left you because they were offering continuing education classes. And I decided to be there, still taking ceramics classes as, for the continuing education division. And I think my ex felt a little bit guilty, and he paid for one class. And so that class was good because it counted towards, my MFA later. So within 2 years, my advisor said, so the position is open. And so I got a position. It was a challenge for me because I had to be a full-time student. I was working as a TA for 20 hours, and I was a single mother, recently divorced. But there was something else that I was like, hey, this is a very good opportunity for you to be so strong. And then I found strength in my art and in myself that I felt like, I'm going to finish it. And then this is going to work. And then it did, So my art was very therapeutic, Everything that I was creating had so much emotions. I was like, so many emotions. Every single piece that I created, I was talking to each one, And then the way that I was adding texture, imprinting texture, carving, scratching, I was releasing so much energy. So my pieces, if they could say something, if they could speak, they would be saying a lot of things.
Well, what attracted you to ceramics initially, and how has your approach to it kind of evolved?
In fact, when I took the class, I felt like, this is just what I was looking for. I loved printmaking, but there's something else that I was not completely happy with. There was like a kind of medium that I was still looking for. And when I touched clay and then I started with ceramics, I found so many possibilities, you know, because printmaking is more structured and is not as forgiving as clay is. So I felt that clay with clay, I could do a lot. And the flexibility, the possibilities. So I fell in love, and then I wanted to see my work in another dimension because up to printmaking, everything that I had done before was pretty much in 2D. And I felt clay could be another dimension. And I started, in fact, with clay working with tile making. And I used my prints as references. So it was very interesting to see those flat images into a more three-dimensional images, you know, pieces. So that's what I felt, you know, the more I was studying ceramics, the more I was finding possibilities, and pretty much everything that I wanted to create, I could do. I can do pretty much. So I love it. And then the application of colors, glazing, and all the process, I just love it.
So, what are some of the influences that you draw upon consciously in your work?
Okay, I have a lot of influences from my mom, a lot of inspirations from my culture, and I would say that from my mom, I have a lot of influence of the way I color my pieces. My mom paints a lot of watercolor, and I always got fascinated by the way that she was coloring everything, like randomly just looking for blends of colors. And I felt like I can do that with glazes. And that's what I do pretty much. I don't look for any kind of recipes. I know what I'm going to use. I know the colors, but I don't know how much. So I keep adding, and I do in a way that I add colors in between firings. So whenever I create a color that I'm happy with, I'm not I'm not able to duplicate it because they're like just out of blendings and blendings. So that's pretty much one of the things that I got from my mom. And I watercolor too. I like watercolor, and I I just use the same principles for coloring, for blending colors, and I do that. So besides that, I have my inspirations, and my inspirations are from my memories from Brazil. So my work has a lot of texture, and that texture comes from my deep connection with nature, especially the ocean, by spending so much time right in front of the ocean, doing a lot of things, fishing, boating, collecting seashells, playing the sand and doing all sorts of things. I had such a wonderful time as a kid, you know, with my friends and my family at the beach house. And so I believe that has a lot to do with this. Besides that, there is the influence of the African, culture that is pretty much present in my home city. So my home city is the oldest one in Brazil, and it got a lot of influence from the Africans that came by the time that they needed some kind of extra help for everything that was going on in the city. So there was a lot of slave trade, and then pretty much everything started in my city. And so today my city is has pretty much 80% of the population of either Black or mulattoes, a mix of white and Black people. So the Black culture, the African culture, pretty much shaped my city, shaped in a way that our food, our music, our songs, and a lot of things are from them. And with that, they brought their African religion too. And so I was raised more into Catholicism, but we always were aware there was that kind of religion, the African religion. It was a little bit secluded, it was a little bit like far from us because it was kind of mysterious. And my family was kind of, not my family, but not only my family, but some of my, pool of people, my group of people were like more like into um, respecting that a lot, but it was not part of our lives much. But we knew that it always existed. And I was fascinated by that. And I, as a kid at the beach house on New Year's Day, I witnessed one of the rituals. I was still like very small, and that one impressed me a lot. And I felt like I want to learn more about it. I want to know what's going on there. Why are all these things are going on? Well, why there's this possession? Because there's like, people that they were very sensitive, and then they're like kind of spiritual medium. And then they were possessed by these deities, these gods and stuff like that. So I got very impressed by that, and I started like having a lot of curiosity over that. And so when I came to the United States, I decided to study more that. And then anytime that I was going back to Brazil, I I went to one of the rituals and I saw that, and it was very fascinating. And I think that my work has a lot of influence from that too. And as you see, there's some of these figurative,
Mm-hmm.
sculptures back there in the background. So, but again, what I feel is that I fuse my inspirations. If you look at my orishas, that's how they are called. They have something from the ocean, some texture. So when I make flowers, for example, I love flowers. I bring a little bit of the ocean to my flowers. So I feel that all my inspirations are fused, and then they are all connected.
Mm-hmm.
And then here in this country, I've been here for so many years, I don't have the ocean. I wish I had it at least a little closer that I could go sometimes, but it's kind of far to go for a weekend, for example. So I started like hiking and exploring nature, and still like trying to get a deep connection with nature, but a different kind of nature. So I did something that I do sometimes camping that I've never done my whole life. So I hike a lot. I like to go to the mountains sometimes when I have the chance. So anyway, I feel like that some of my work has influences from this connection with this kind of nature that I have here. But again, I fuse them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't create literal and realistic flowers. I kind of fuse them with my influences from the ocean and stuff like that. So that's pretty much what happens with my pieces.
So, all of you don't do any wheel thrown work at all. It's all hand built pottery that you do.
I just do whenever I have to teach, because sometimes it's part of the courses that I have to
Mm-hmm.
teach. So, but not necessarily for my works. All of my pieces are hand built. I don't know. I like the imperfection. The wheel throwing is good, but it's also kind of structured. And I like the imperfection of hand building, and I like to show a little bit of the imperfection. And so, and I feel like a little bit more free to explore texture and shapes and forms when I hand build.
Mm-hmm. You also do installations. Can you talk about a couple of your more challenging installations and what you were trying to convey with those?
Yeah, I love installations, and I wish I would be doing more, in fact. But I had a few when I had my MFA show, and there's like, pieces inspired by the African rituals, and I have like quite a lot of them on the wall combined. And it was very interesting to see because each one was very unique and all inspired. And what I like about these installations is that sometimes when people see a lot of things all together, they have so many interpretations. And my work is very symbolic in a way too. And then it is subject to different interpretations. And I like that because sometimes people see things that I don't see.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to kind of exchange this kind of information, because sometimes I have the chance to talk to viewers and then they say, I see this and that. I said, oh, I didn't mean that, but it's great that you see that. So the installation is also, I'm working on one now for my next show, solo exhibition. And anyway, I think I like because I have a chance to, first of all, be installing, there at the site, and being able to see more things all together, more pieces all together as a group.
That'll be exciting. How has your background in architecture played out in your work?
It gave me a good foundation, I believe so, in drawing, in perspective, and a few things. And I think, again, what I really liked about, not what I really liked, one of the things that I liked the most in architecture was the artistic side. So I took, drawing classes. I took like painting classes. So I felt like they were, very helpful when I entered the art degree. But at the same time, when I started like tile making, my tiles were very geometric. And I felt like, you must be still very influenced from architecture. So I have this kind of side also that goes a little bit into, geometry. And I feel like that, it helped me a lot.
What kind of studio space do you have? Is it at your home or is it elsewhere?
Yeah, this is my home. I have a room here. It's a kind of a loft. And that's where I keep my pieces that are ready. So I work also in my garage when I have some clay and then the weather allows me to do it. It's not either very hot, it's not either very cold. So I work there and then I use kilns, the kiln rooms there, the kiln room there. And I've been teaching there, so it's easy for me to take my pieces there. And then also, both Teresa and the current director, they offer some of the alumni students to, they offer the kilns, if anybody needs to use, because sometimes it's hard for me to have a kiln here in my house. So that's what I do. I usually make them here, take to TU, I glaze them there, and I bring them back. So I keep this studio here whenever the pieces are ready. So I keep bringing them, and it's just like a little shop, a little gallery.
How did you first get involved in the gallery scene in Tulsa?
First of all, when I was finishing my MA, we had to have a show and had to be somewhere, in a gallery that was not necessarily TU gallery. So that's when I had my first show. It was a coffee place, by the way. It was not a gallery. And so I had my MA show at TU gallery. And then I started like looking for a gallery that could accept my work. And I started with Lovitz Gallery. They had they offered a award there, and then I applied and I got it. And I met the owner and his son, and then they went to see my show at TU, and then they liked it. So that's when we started having some sort of a contact. So, and after that, I sent my piece. I had some of my pieces there at their gallery. That's when everything started, pretty much. And then more opportunities were coming by, and then I had my MFA. And so being at TU was pretty much wonderful in the sense that I was much more exposed to opportunities, shows and all that.
What have been a couple of your most memorable? You have an exhibit coming up, obviously, and we'll talk a little more about that later. But your couple of your more memorable, either competitions or exhibits.
I think my two graduate, shows were like probably the most memorable ones. Printmaking, because my advisor at that time, she knew that I was doing ceramics, and she allowed me to show some of my ceramic pieces. So it was a good combination because I had the prints, and right next to it, I had the tiles that I had the prints as references. So I loved it because I could see the transition that my work was leaning to. So that one was very nice. I didn't expect to have my ceramics pieces in that show, and then that one was interesting. And then I can see that as something evolving into what I'm doing now. In my MFA show, my MFA thesis, show was also another one that meant so much to me, not only because I was very happy with everything that I was able to produce, and I did a lot. I was like a machine.
How many pieces?
Creating. Oh my goodness. I don't know, but I had the whole gallery pretty much for me. There was another part of the gallery that another student used, but I used pretty much 80% of the gallery. And then I was able to put everything that I created. So I loved it. And that it's not only that I was very happy with my pieces and everything that I was able to produce and create, but it was like an emotional accomplishment because of the divorce and because I was not able to get the benefits from TU, and I did my MFA on my own. It was just like my efforts, you know? So when I looked at everything, I felt like so happy with myself and with what I was able to accomplish. So that one was memorable. And I will never forget everything around that exhibition.
You got a grant from the Oklahoma Visual Artists Coalition. What was that for?
Okay, yes. I was, getting ready for this show that was the solo exhibition that was supposed to be in October 2020, but because of the pandemic, it was postponed. And by a few months before that, I felt like, I was having more contact with OVAC because I was one of the Tulsa Art Studio Tour artists, in 2019. And I had a little bit of a closer relationship with OVAC, and I became a member. And so I noticed that they offered lots of opportunities. And I felt like, okay, I'm going to apply to one of these grants and see if I can get some help to finish the preparation for this exhibition. So I got the grant, and it was pretty much the money that I got, I was able to prepare everything for the show. And I'm still working on it because since the exhibition was, postponed, rescheduled, I had more time to kind of work on other things that I was planning to do.
And do you have a date for it now, or are you?
Yeah, it's going to be January 22. It's kind of still long ways, but I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And I'm still working, and I might have more pieces than I'm initially planning to, but that's okay. Then I can choose. Yeah. I can see like, oh, I think this looks better than this and all that. So I just don't stop making art. I just keep doing it.
That's great. What kind of a reception have you had for your work so far?
You mean like from the public in general?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had very good support, and I kind of like that people like my work, and I like to have contact with the people that buy my pieces. Sometimes I know who, sometimes I don't, but because I want to hear a little bit about their feedback, what made them buy that piece. So I've had very good receptions, for example, there's like those that love the flowers, those that love the pieces that I usually submit to galleries. I'm not saying that I don't submit the flowers, but the flowers are more like, how can I say? I think it's more like for the sales part too. Okay, so because I sell, flowers quite a lot. Mm-hmm. Popular. Anyway, so in general, I have good reception, and my work is so diverse that I make so many different things that in a way helps a lot with the reception, like because I can kind of please a large audience. So, and then also I offer, to change colors if anybody want to have a commission. I offer to change sizes and stuff like that. So I tell people that I'm flexible, and I can get some commissions, and I've got some, by the way, throughout this years. Yeah,
that's important. How about your connections to either the Brazilian community or Portuguese speaking communities in Oklahoma?
Yeah, there's quite a few, and it's getting big and big. And so I have a lot of good connections. I have very good relationships. We are far from our families, and some of them are family for me here. There's like a few families here where I spend Christmas with, Thanksgiving with, and all these celebrations that I'm not able to go to Brazil. I wish I could, but so they are very supportive friends. We get together, we have fun, we cook our food. We pray. I have a praying group. So I have very good friends, and it's good to be around them. Sometimes we share the same feelings of being homesick sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's good to speak our language.
Speaking your language, yeah. So you teach in an amazing variety of venues. You teach at
Yes.
TU, the Dual Language Academy in Tulsa, part of Tulsa Public Schools, Tulsa Community College, Gilcrease, different student bodies, different ages, different reasons for being in the class, I'm sure. How do you adapt for each group?
Okay, so I'm part-time in all of them, in fact. So, I'm very active and I look for opportunities. And when we moved to this country, when I moved here, I felt like we are coming to this country because there's much more opportunities. And that's what I look for. And there are a lot. And so whenever I feel like that I have time, I go for it. And so I started like my first job right after I graduated in 2013 with TCC. I applied for a position there and then I started teaching right after I graduated. And I started teaching art appreciation. It's not like a studio class and it was very challenging. I learned a lot and it was very, very good. I love the process. And when I look back and I felt like, oh my gosh, how much I have learned with my students with the teaching process and all that together. So then I started working for the Gilcrease Museum, and then I was, pretty much sometimes I was asked to teach at TU, and that's what I did. And at the Gilcrease Museum was teaching art programs, and one of them was called Any Given Child, and I was there for quite a while teaching summer camps too. But I taught a summer camp also at AHA, like workshops at AHA, Philbrook, anywhere that there was an opportunity for me, and I was able to do it. I was just, hey, let me do it. Let me at least apply for a position. So TU comes occasionally, teaching there. I love teaching there because then I teach ceramics. I taught also at Waterworks, a few workshops there. And then, but I felt that I needed something a little bit more with more benefits and like a steady income. That's why I applied for a position at Tulsa Public Schools. And I teach elementary, I teach art there. And it's been almost 2 years, very different from everything that I have done before. The system is completely different, but I like it and I'm learning a lot and it's been very, very good.
Neat. So, how did the pandemic impact your teaching?
Um, a lot because I had to learn how to teach in distance learning and it was very challenging because I was like, how am I going to teach arts like that? And at that time I was teaching for TPS and TCC. For TCC, I had to be certified to teach online. So I did a workshop and I knew that something was coming and I said, let me get prepared for this. Let me be certified because I know that they probably will be offering just online classes. And TPS was a different thing because I felt like, how am I going to be teaching kids? We decided in our school to record the art classes, some of the special classes we decided to record. But it was very different recording and having just me right in front of the camera. And I felt like, I hope the students can understand everything. I hope the students can follow everything. I'm not there to say, hey, do this instead of this. And it was very challenging. And I had to learn a lot how to use the program and all that. But anyway, now we are back in person. And this semester at TU, I'm glad, they were able to offer ceramics in a hybrid method because how can you teach ceramics without being in the studio? But anyway, it was a big change and I felt a little bit anxious in the beginning, but it's just said to myself, take your time, learn, because that's what it is. That's our reality now and it has to work. So it has worked.
How about your artwork? How has teaching impacted, how has the pandemic impacted your artwork?
In fact, I didn't stop working. I brought some clay home and I felt like I need to continue creating because, the pandemic closed a lot of things, but pandemic will not close my creativity. The pandemic will not close my contact with nature. I was walking more, I was observing nature more, and I felt, no, It's not going to stop this. And so I was able to bring clay home, and then I was making pieces here and taking to TU to fire. And I was using the social media a lot. And so I was posting a lot of my new work. And to be honest with you, I had one of the best years ever with sales. I sold a lot last year. I felt that people were more home and probably like looking around and see, hey, I need to do something here. I need probably to remodel, to redecorate, and to do something. And then they felt like, oh, maybe that wall needs a piece of art. And that's how I felt. And I was not much into business, like sales and stuff. But I learned a lot, and I learned a lot from my boyfriend. And he said, you have to be a little bit more bold. You have to offer. If somebody says, I wanted this, oh, but it's sold, say, hey, I can do something similar. How about this? How about that? And I started doing this, and it was working, and I offered to deliver for free within Tulsa limits. I said, okay, I deliver, because they were like, how am I going to get it? How am I going to pick it up? I said, no, don't worry. We are going to keep the distance. I will be wearing a mask, and I just put by your door, and you can pay me through one of these apps and stuff. So I was kind of facilitating things. So it worked.
Good learning experience there too.
Yes.
That's great. That's wonderful. Even when it's not a pandemic, how do you balance your art and your teaching?
Um, I wish I had sometimes more time for creating my pieces, because sometimes I'm so overwhelmed, because teaching is not like being there, it's just bringing home a lot of things to grade. And I'm always grading, you know, on Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, sometimes, any free time that I have, I'm grading, grading, grading. So since I am at TU a lot because I'm teaching there, I try to be there a little earlier and I leave later a little bit. So during that time, whenever I'm done with the students, I try to create something. And that's how I manage things. I have a few commissions, and I told my clients, I said, hey, it's going to take a while. I'll do it, but it's going to take a while, because it's hard for me to, give a due date and not be able to accomplish it. So I tell them, wait, things are going to be better once,
Right.
I'm out of school, like May, at least, from TCC and TU.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
I wish
good.
I had a little bit more time, but I need to work. I need to teach. So
So you do have
it
that
is what it
a little
is.
bit of summer, yeah. You make annual trips back to Brazil. Why are those important to you?
Yeah, since I was pregnant, in fact, with my son, I was going every year. And then for the first time in 20 years, I didn't go last year because of the pandemic. And so I'm planning to go this year, and hopefully I will be able to, hopefully things are going to get better there. Here, I'm already vaccinated, things are getting better, but there they are not doing well. So these trips mean a lot to me, because first of all, I was able to be with my family. Everybody's there. I don't have any family here in this country except for my son. And so, and also for him to have see his family. I'm not his daddy, and me are not we are not the only ones, And it was so important, I remember when he was little, there was always these celebrations at his school, like Grandparents' Day. And I was there. I said, your grandparents are not here, but I'm here. But one day, my mom was here visiting with us, and she went to pick him up with me. And we went to his classroom. When he saw her, he said, I have a grandma. I have a grandma, everybody. Please, this is my grandma. I felt so sorry for him. But anyway, so he loves going there, and it's so fun to be with my family, because it seems that those days that I spend there is just for fun. It's just like, hey, we want to be enjoying that. I
Yeah.
don't have to be, living the routine and all these things, it's just fun visiting everyone and having parties and gatherings and stuff. So it is very important to connect with my family and have my son connect too. So I miss them a lot. It's hard
For
sometimes.
sure.
I wish Brazil was a little closer.
I understand.
And also one
Well, what's
thing,
been one of, go ahead.
I'm sorry about Brazil is that I get a lot of inspiration when I go. I come
Yes.
back recharged, emotionally and a lot of things because I go there, I go to the beaches, I go with my mom to museums, we see exhibitions. So I come back with a lot of inspirations.
Creatively recharged.
Creatively, yeah, creatively recharged. Yes, exactly.
Well, so far, what's been the biggest highlight of your career? Biggest highlight moment? You have many more years to come, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think it's just by participating in exhibitions and being accepted in some, and being able to network a lot and be invited sometimes to some exhibitions. And I think that's a good point. I'm planning to be more exposed to, other galleries, other than Tulsa in Oklahoma. I have been in shows in different places like Texas, Kansas, Virginia, Las Vegas. I had a piece there once. But I'm planning to be applying for more exhibitions out of Oklahoma. And I need a little bit of more time to pretty much prepare pieces for that kind of shows, for those shows. And so that's my next goal, my next objective, pretty much.
Those are good goals. What's been a low point so far?
Um, sometimes we hear no's, right? When I apply sometimes for shows, I hear no's, but I hear yes too. So that's something that sometimes I feel like, why not? Why I was not accepted? And you don't have any feedback, so you don't know. I wish they could say why, because then we would say, okay, I understand, and then what I do better or something like this. And sometimes not a question of doing better. It's just a question that my piece is not doesn't fit into the show or whatever the juror was planning to have together for the show. But sometimes I felt sometimes left out, but it's something that I try to overcome. And I feel like, whenever a door shuts, others open. And sometimes they open much wider. And anyway, there is a lot of opportunities. That's how I feel. There's a lot. We just have to go for them and look for them. And there is a lot of things that we can do. We can explore. If it's not through one way, go through another way. And then we find
Yeah.
things, good
And
things.
women artists, it's sort of a struggle anyway. And then when you have that, like you said, global positioning, or when you've come to this country, um, then that's another positioning that maybe it's sometimes you don't always maybe have the feel like you have the infrastructural support or well, do you have any other comments or things you'd like to add to what we've talked about? Is there anything else?
First of all, I love this idea of being able to, talk a little bit about my art and my life, even my personal life. And I'll tell you one thing that I feel like, it's so good to have a profession. It's so good to be independent. It's so good to do what you like to do. It's so good to work with you like to do. I'm very privileged. I don't make much money, but I'm so happy with what I do because I can teach what I like. Teaching is wonderful. I learn a lot from my students. My mom is still teaching. She's over 80 and she's still active and teaching. And I look at her and I said, I want to be like you. I want to teach until I can, I'm able to. So again, I learn a lot from my students. I learn English from my students a lot.
Right,
Still learning every day.
the current slang that we don't know.
And then also, it's good to be on the other side. I was a student for so many years, and I kind of sympathize and have a lot of empathy for them too, because I know what it is to be a student because I was for many years. So, and I would say that just go for your dreams. If you have big dreams, keep dreaming, and when I felt that I had everything to give up, I felt even stronger. So I used that as something that motivated me a lot. And that's my big advice to whoever might be struggling in life and might be considering not continuing or giving up. Don't. Keep working, and keep doing, keep dreaming. And art is wonderful, has been my big escape, has been my big friend, my best friend, because it's a way of communicating and it's a way of expressing so much. And so anyway, and you know what? Sometimes I look at my art and say, what am I gonna do with all this? I give a lot of away. I love to do it. I donate a lot. So
That's wonderful.
yeah.
Well, we appreciate everything you're bringing to the Tulsa art scene, and thank you for your time, Cristiana. I hope I can catch your exhibition in 2022.
Sure, we are gonna be in touch, and I'm looking forward to that. And thank you again. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share all that.
I enjoyed it. Bye for now.
Bye. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.